Eventually I came around to playing through Resident Evil 3 Remake. Though my memory of the original is shady, I remember renting the original way back in the day and finding it way too scary and hard, so I didn't get very far. In Resident Evil 3 Remake, it follows in the footsteps of the previous games, so much that a significant chunk of the game is rehashed locations and levels. You go through bits of a police station again, the underground lab, many locations you find yourself thinking, I've been here before, which is equally entertaining but also feels rehashed. You play as two main characters which get switched back and forth as the story progresses. They're Jill and Carlos. Unlike other games where you choose characters, in this one it's mandatory to play as both as the game progresses. Jill is more nimble, but I think has less health and uses shotguns, pistols, and grenade launchers, while Carlos is more bulky and his dodge attack is instead a punch attack, and he always comes equipped with an assault rifle, which is very effective. RE3 has many throwback and iconic moments. Like early in the game you get chased by this hulking trenchcoat guy from RE2, but that doesn't last long. You stop being chased by him after the first quarter of the game. Instead, you're then chased by this giant biological mutant known as Nemesis. You go between city streets, hospitals, to underground labs, looking for vaccines to cure Jill after she's been infected, or to cure the virus once and for all. The plot is basic, and it's got some subtle undertone of romance or something going on between Jill and Carlos. It's corny, but also entertaining enough to follow, and it does the job. The graphics and zombies are top-notch. The animations in particular are stellar and super creepy. Especially the zombies are so unpredictable, they often don't just seem like AI because the movements and animations are so varied, it becomes very immersive and intense. You can never quite tell when the zombies are dead or if they're going to stand back up and grab you, which adds an extra layer of immersion and suspense. Guns feel great, with heavy recoil that makes it feel like every shot has a lot of impact and importance, as should be in a survival horror game. While the gun selection isn't varied, the few you get your hands on feel good. Jill has a heavy emphasis on a grenade launcher and different grenade types, which I didn't really enjoy and would have preferred more weapons to play with. For example, you come across all sorts of grenade ammo variations like fire, acid, and explosives, but you're never really sure when it's worth it to use these, and you kind of just end up saving them right before the boss fights to switch to, which feels kind of stupid and like a waste of a mechanic for the whole game. Other than that, there's a few enemies where it's obvious you want to use grenade launcher, like in the sewers with these giant weird dinosaur enemies that get one hit to fire rounds. I played on normal difficulty and the game wasn't hard at all, so maybe I should have bumped it up. There's plenty of ammo and you never really feel like you're going scarce, health is abundant, it's a pretty easy casual game on the default difficulty, which isn't necessarily bad. It was an enjoyable playthrough, but at times I found myself thinking this isn't the classic challenging and engaging Resident Evil that I used to know. There is a button mashing mechanic whenever you get grabbed by an enemy to mash A, but it doesn't give you any indication or visual feedback of what it actually does, so the mechanic doesn't feel that great and you're not really sure if spamming A is even doing anything, but apparently it makes you take less damage, so there's that. Like Resident Evil 2, it's got a great new feature where on the minimap it tells you if you fully explored the area and if you got all the items in the area. So it helps a lot to encourage exploration and backtracking for missed items, which I enjoyed. Though a few times you switch characters and can choose to backtrack through an entire location, like in the hospital as Jill, but all you get for your effort is some ammo or something. Classic enemies make a return here, like the big hulking lizard guys that chase you around, that are mostly vulnerable to explosives, and the dinosaur monsters that eat you. But other than that, there aren't really that much enemy variety. You have the standard zombies, and then the big bosses, and that's it. There's a section with some spiders in a maze, and towards the end of the game you have more laboratory experiment type zombies that seem invincible, but besides that I think there could have maybe been a little bit more variety. The two biggest gripes I have are the reused levels and areas from Resident Evil 2. This game originally released 2 years after Resident Evil 2, and I guess this is why. There's entire sections and levels that are just copy-pasted from the previous game. I don't know, it felt like a bit of a cop-out. This isn't exclusive to the remaster. I guess it's just a gripe I have with the original game too. And the next gripe I have is that the boss fights were mostly kinda terrible. Why are the boss fights bad? Because you can't just shoot at them like you'd think. It's like there's these scripted segments and you have to wait for a specific script to happen. Then you can do damage to the boss. So you can frequently enter a boss fight, have no idea if you can even do damage, if you're even wasting your ammo or not, and basically what happens is the first instance of a boss fight is the test phase, where you purposely waste all your ammo and try to figure out where the damage script is, and then you reload your previous save. Also, the fights are a bit trivial too. in the sense that like other Resident Evil games, you save all your explosives and best ammo until the boss fight. Then as soon as you realize where the boss arena is, you can quickly reload your last save and grab all the best stuff. It's not that big of a gripe, but it feels a little cheap that it's so easy to do, and even encouraged. I don't know, Resident Evil boss fights always seemed a bit shit and out of place in a survival horror game. To suddenly be put into a closed-off arena wasting all your ammo. It's both good and bad, I'm conflicted with it. The loot isn't that complex or diverse. There's standard ammo, and you can combine ammo. There's surprisingly weapon attachments you can find, but they don't make a massive difference. There's typical things like locked off areas or chests until you find a key or a lockpick, or bolt cutters, etc. One of the bosses you apparently can't do any damage until the boss runs away from you, sprints around on the walls, and you shoot mines on the walls, so the boss runs into the mine and then falls on the floor, then you can damage it? And you can even run out of mines, and by that point you just have to die or reload the previous save. Yeah, the boss fights kinda suck. I think the remake is missing a lot of content from the original game, but my memory of the original game is fuzzy. I've just heard people say that. It's also weird that the remake doesn't even have ink ribbons, even on the hardest difficulty. I don't like that. And yeah, playing on the default normal difficulty was a mistake. It was honestly way too easy. I should have probably put it on the hardest. They should have made the default difficulty a little bit more challenging. The best things about the game are the graphics and controls. The graphics are up there with the best I've ever seen. It's super polished AAA quality graphics. Though there is something to be said with these modern Resident Evil titles. With the easy controls and the third-person camera, it does take away some of the horror and challenge of the fixed camera angles of the originals. I think I do prefer the unique style of the original games with their fixed camera angles. It really adds to the creepiness not knowing exactly what's around the corner and not being able to see off the screen. There's not much more I can say with the Resident Evil 3 remake. It feels like a quickly made follow-up to Resident Evil 2, just like the original release, I guess. But I don't know, maybe they could have done something more with it. I know the original Resident Evil 3 rehashed some locations too, but maybe in the remake it could have been a bit expanded or differentiated or something. The boss fights were the worst part. Visually they look nice, but mechanically they're obtuse and stupid. It's also missing quite a few enemies of the original Resident Evil 3, I think. I like the story, and traveling through the streets and into hospitals and underground labs to find a vaccine and stuff is classic. I don't remember if the original Resident Evil 3 you swapped back and forth between characters or not. I think I prefer it when games don't do stuff like that and just have one cohesive character the whole time, but it wasn't bad. This new character, the shaggy hair guy, he's pretty meh and a generic personality, forgettable. Overall, it's a polished and enjoyable modern Resident Evil title, albeit a bit rehashed and lacking around the edges. It's also super short, like 4 to 5 hours long. I'd feel bad if I paid full price for this, I think. Luckily I didn't, so there's that. 7 out of 10.